Episode 25, TCG Nonsense with Jesse Rhodes Gibson, Sports Boy of Sports Cards Nonsense, Part 2. Welcome to the 25th episode of the Card Diary by Hobbyist Thompson. I'm your host, Danny Cards, and thank you for tuning in. To paraphrase Jay-Z, you could be listening to any podcast in the world right now, but you're here with me, and for that, I appreciate you so very much. I am recording this on a Monday evening, July 24th, 2 days before the start of the public going to the Nationals Sneak Peek Wednesday, since vendors and corporate booths are already getting set up today and tomorrow. And the reason I probably sound more, chipper than normal, although it's really late, is just before I started to record this intro, I did a PSA grading reveal of 27 cards, 17 of them gemmed, which is a gem rate of 63%. That's my highest so far. And so go check that out in my Instagram if you'd like, but I will refrain from wasting any time talking about that sub here and instead waste it on talking about other stuff. So, wow, 25 episodes, a whole quarter of a century in. To think 2 months ago, this podcast didn't even exist. I think that's pretty cool. Speaking of quarters, I have two thoughts that came to my mind when I said that word. I've already mentioned how Quarters, the Korean restaurant, the Korean barbecue restaurant in Los Angeles, is like so good. So if you're in that area, oh my goodness, that place is just amazing. Secondly, quarters as coin currency. I remember using a ton of quarters in arcades as a kid. And, if you're the age, I don't know what the age is, 30 and under, you're probably more used to swiping cards and things like that at Dave and Buster's and arcades nowadays. But yeah, quarters, Street Fighter 2, NBA Jam, which I'll get to in a moment maybe. Oh, yeah. So, side note, I wrote this to myself. I think I put this in my feed a long time ago as like a thought that I had. But can you imagine if there were cards and card packs as prizes at places like Dave and Buster's, where you get all those tickets for all those like carnival games, instead of getting some weird pencil or sticky hand thing that will invariably get stuck to your ceiling. What if you can buy singles or wax? I just wanted to put that out there, put that out into the universe. Maybe that'll happen, because then I would definitely be at those places a lot more often, I think. So anyway, talking about quarters again reminds me of arcades, and at National, again, just 2 days away from the time I'm recording this. Apparently, the CGC booth will have NBA Jam among other arcade games. I, for one, am very excited for this, as you can tell from my Instagram profile pic. And the thing is, you can play arcades anywhere, right? I mean, but in a actual arcade, in that big box, that's a totally different story. I mean, you could play it as a video game on your, TV or Xbox or whatever it is, but to play it with like the joystick and, for it to be like, seeing your opponent in person and even like the, not just two players, but four players, and to potentially play it against some of you. I think that just sounds awesome. So I'm really excited. And I gotta say something. Like, I don't like to brag too much, but I'm pretty good in the game. Okay, so just don't feel too bad. Okay, if I win, because that's just what I do. All right. Um. So yeah, Jesse was a great guest, and this is going to be part two. Definitely want to see how his NBA Jam skills are. I really enjoy talking to him, and I very much think he's one of the good guys in the hobby. He and Mike Gioseffi. If you haven't heard their podcast, their chemistry is truly infectious, um, but not in the COVID kind of way. All right, maybe we can make those jokes later. All right, they have this unflappable confidence. I think that just comes with having a lot of reps under their belt, and also just an innate kindness. But well, maybe just Jesse. But where you just know that even if they're just joking, like Jesse, it's not done to offend or cause harm. And I'm kidding, Mike too. But these people, they're kind of like my people. Kind people are my kind of people. Um, what else? Because of course I go along with these intros. I had some more talking points. Oh boy, this looks pretty long, but I'm gonna just go ahead and plow through it, okay? Because we are at the 25th mark, and we are just a couple of days away from National. Um, I'm gonna admit that I feel pretty nervous about going to National, and I don't mean traveling because I've been on plenty of planes in my life, domestically and internationally. But I mean that in the sense of being a content creator in the hobby space. People see me in person. I don't have like huge body image issues, but I never shed my quarantine 15, things like that. And the thing is, like, I can easily just not talk about this and say, oh, I'm super confident in everything I do, and that content creation comes easy to me. But if I am going to have a podcast and ask my guests to be vulnerable, I have to be vulnerable too. And that's just how you get to see the behind the scenes, that type of BTS in podcast and content creation. So the funny thing about all of this, though, is that none of my content is being monetized, or do I even foresee it being monetizable? Because unless it's like YouTube, which I don't really have a big presence in, other folks who have huge follower bases and a ton of engagement, at least when it comes to Instagram, I don't think they're monetizing it. So I don't think it's for money. So this really is just supposed to be fun for me. And so I guess the rhetorical, or not the non-rhetorical, question is, if that is the case, why do I have these nerves? Or maybe I should just call it what it is, which is anxiety. I don't really hear a lot of content creators and people in the hobby talking about it, and I'm not trying to get all down here, but I don't know. Like, it's something I grapple with, and it's not about the cards themselves. Actually, it might be. I can get to that in a moment, but I think it's some sort of validation, a wanting of validation from strangers on the internet, who soon with National will become actual real people I get to meet. It's silly to seek validation from people on the internet, right? But again, real soon, these are people who will become very real. And I ruminate over, will they like me? Will they not like me? Will I like them? Will they live up to the expectations I've set for them in my mind? Will I live up to theirs? Because there's this thing called parasocial relationships. I'll say it slower, parasocial relationships. And this is something that I'm not going to talk about a lot right now, but I've only recently learned about it. I'm still trying to process it. But the general definition is that it's a relationship where people think they know you by the content you create. So it really is almost like this modern phenomenon. And again, I'll talk about it another day, but I wanted to bring it up here because this is going to happen really soon, where I'm going to meet people who think they know me, and people are going to meet me and think they know me. But who knows, right? I mean, until you break bread with people, until you talk with them in person, all of the stuff we do online, it's very real, and also it's not, right? I mean, it's you don't really get a sense of a person as you think you do when you meet them in person. So, this is the kind of stuff that flows through my head, y'all. So, vulnerability, showing my humanity. We are not silos, folks, or solo. We're not solo silo, but at least, I mean, you can be. You can be one of these collectors who just doesn't do any, trading, or selling, buying, selling, trading online. But they're just the folks who, I guess, all they do is just buy, and they just keep it in their basement or in their collection, and they just want to be left alone. I get it. But I feel like if you're that type of person, you're really not on social media. You're not consuming content. You're not making content. Definitely not. You are not, trying to make deals online and transact and try to build relationships. You're just like, just everyone just leave me alone. And I just remember that that's kind of how it was, not by design or by my own, will, but back in the early 2000s and the late 90s, it was just kind of like that. You just had your local community, your hyper local community, where you could just do buying, selling, and trading. I don't really remember there being a national again until I went the first time, being in 2012. That's the one I remember, and I don't even remember if I knew of them before then. So, having said all that, there's also another way to feel inadequate and have anxiety, cards wise. Okay, so I think I've talked about this a lot before, but I don't really have a big collection, nice collection. I think that in a vacuum, if I just think about my collection as it is right now, I am happy with it. I really do get great joy in looking at my cards. I feel like if I just stopped collecting like right now, I'd be like, oh yeah, you know what? This is pretty good. I like this. But when you do look at the bigger accounts, with bigger cards, you do get that sense of, oh my gosh, my cards are inferior. And I think that happens even more as you go towards a local card show, or, like the national, which is like the biggest stage of a card show, where you're getting your cards together, right? And you're just gathering them up, and you're just like, okay, these are the ones that I want to trade, or these are the ones I want to try to sell to dealers. And I just don't see or hear a lot of people talk about that anxiety of maybe their cards being inferior. And maybe other people just feel like they're not, and they're very confident in their cards. But again, I just feel like there's the great parts of social media and the bad parts, or the not so great parts, where you do get a sense of, oh my goodness, like, is anyone going to like my cards? Should I even bring them? So I'm kind of going through that right now. I should probably be packing too, because I have not packed much at all. I am a little bit of a procrastinator. I have tomorrow to pack, and then a super early flight Wednesday morning, which I have to make. So I will. But in general, when it comes to social media, we have friends who go on lavish vacations, have luxury goods, and they show them off on Instagram. And I guess that you could say that about any hobby too, right? You can just have that feel of inferiority. But I feel like all of this is just going to melt away once I get there. I at least that's the hope. So to bring it back to cards, content, confidence, when I listen to Jesse, and yes, I brought it back full circle. That confidence, I just love to see it. I love to hear it, almost in a way absorb it as I listen to him and Mike. They have this great chemistry that I've talked about before, and it really is inspiring. So, Jesse, if you're listening to this, thank you, my friend. I do look forward to beating you in NBA Jam. And with that said, I will finally get to the second half of my chat with Sports Boy Jesse. Hope you agree that the first half was just so much fun, and let's do some more. Here we go.
Make it till you make it type of thing.
Yeah. Do you feel like this is the longest you've been allowed to speak on a podcast without being interrupted?
Well,
By
fortunately,
Mike.
I've been on a few interviews similar to this where
Oh, you told me I was your
do
first.
find that this is like I said, I think at the outset of this podcast, it will be hard for me to shut up at times because I will go on a rant and I'll just start talking, and it'll be great because I'll feel like I'm doing so well because I haven't said or and so I can just talk for as long as I want. But then I realize, oh, shut up, let the actual host speak here.
No. People, I am the conduit. And again, before this, and my whole podcast is Oz and Noms during the guest interview, the guest chats. Why do I keep calling them interviews? I'm trying to go for a chat. I do monologue intros. Like, if you listen to this, I don't know. You're a very busy person. You might not, but I'll probably have a monologue intro where I talk for like an hour, and then we'll start your interview, your chat.
That. You know what, though? If you can do that, good for you. I find that very difficult to talk on my own for very long periods of time. Like, there are some people who do podcasts solo all the time, and I'm like actually really impressed that they can do it and still keep it entertaining.
Right. Well, the entertaining part that I'm working on. But you're ranting, which is I don't mind, but you're not raving, so that's good. But no, when it comes to this this idea of like content creation, I do want to, and I promised you when I booked you for this recording, I did say we're going to talk TCG, so we're going to do uninterrupted 15 minutes on TCG. But I got to say, like, you're the focus. You are the focus of this. You are my guest. I want my guest to feel as warm and inviting as possible, and I want this to be a good atmosphere where you're allowed to just open up and be vulnerable. So, us talking about the imposter syndrome, that right before we press record, we were barely even on the mics for like a couple of minutes, but I was like, we gotta like talk about this on air on the recording.
I'm glad. Yeah, because everybody always like I'm sure you've gotten this now that you've been doing a podcast for a little bit, and we get it all the time. Is like, how do you start a podcast? what makes a good podcast or anything like to that subject matter. And
Mhm.
oftentimes this is the thing that gets left out, like the real honesty. Because you always, like, I think being genuine is 9 times out of 10 the answer that Mike or I will give to someone is
Mhm.
like, be real, be honest, and have a entertaining take on something, but don't be fake, like, or at
Right.
least fake where people don't know. Like, I'll be fake, but it's being funny or being pretend and silly. But the big part of that we don't really talk about is like, what are the side effects of trying to do a podcast that's real when you don't know everything, because no one knows
Mhm.
everything. Some are going to know more than others, and
Right.
that's a real part of it, man. There's a real mental uh strain on the person behind the microphone sometimes. And I respect anybody doing this. So I to your credit, man.
Yeah, thank you. And that is the whole premise of my podcast is the hobby S. Thompson, right? You're like Hunter S. Thompson. Try different things in the hobby so that you can really appreciate how hard it is to be, that custom card artist or that person who's creating content or that person who is, cleaning cards, because it's so easy for everyone to just criticize each other, but to be the actual man or woman in the arena is super hard, right? So,
Absolutely.
before I let you answer that with another 5-minute answer,
Yeah.
I want to switch over to TCG because again, that's why I did want to have you here as well. Could you briefly, or as long as you want, talk about your history with TCG? And I won't say TCG cards.
No, no, no. My history with TCG is about my history with, actually, it's even shorter than my history with sports cards, because I at least collected sports cards as a kid. I knew all about like Pokemon cards as a kid, but and it was the same time I was collecting sports cards, but I didn't. I'm not gonna say, like, I was definitely not like the popular kid in middle school by any means, and that's really where Pokemon was having its heyday. At least for me, was middle school. Um, I was not in that group, but I was also not in the group where it was, you kind of deemed them as the nerds, like the not as cool kids were playing Pokemon in the cafeteria in middle school. I always thought it was really cool, but at the same time, I didn't want to be looked, I didn't want to be looked down upon, because I'm already looked down upon. I'm a giant in school, not just tall, but fat too. And it's just like, oh, I already have my own troubles like getting through school. I don't need to like add Pokemon on top of it, because I was very self aware. And so I always appreciated it. And it wasn't until I got back into cards with the podcast that I saw like, oh wow, I mean, I knew the popularity of Pokemon still, because you still see it everywhere. But it wasn't until then that I really appreciated that adults can get into this. It's not for nerds by any means. It's for anybody who cares about the game. It cares about, just playing a game that has really fun art on it. And that's where I got into things too. Like, it's like, oh, well, if there's Pokemon cards, there's obviously got to be other, cool cards out there like there were in the 90s. And when I say that, I'm just talking about like, there was during the junk wax period, they made a card for literally everything. Like every TV show, every movie, everything had a card. And I love some of those cards. Those are some of my favorite cards. They may be worth like nothing or very little, but they're still like really cool to have, like my, Homer Simpson, or my, Super Mario Brothers card from the late 80s. These things are really cool to me, even though the rarity and scarcity is not there. It's still nice to have. And so now I'm seeing that, oh, there's people that still make cards like this. There's like the Leaf Pop Century cards that have all the like celebrity autographs. There's the I've never been as into Magic the Gathering, but like the Pokemon stuff was always big. But then you saw like the Marvel cards, the Star Wars cards. That stuff was always really, really cool to me too. And knowing that, the 1990 Impel Marvel set was one. You know what? It kind of it annoys me to a little bit of a degree that Mike gets a lot of credit for his like collection. He just started collecting like the Marvel thing, and I was collecting some of these Marvel stuff before he got into it as much. And then he saw that I got into it and other people were into it, and I mean, it's not like he's just making he's not pretending. He still likes Marvel cards and stuff, but he's got a really cool Marvel set that he started with, like from the 1990 Impel Marvel series, and he's trying to get all SGC 10s on all of them, which is really cool to his credit. And I haven't done anything like that, but it's just like I really thought that side of the world was not real, like, or was not as part. It wasn't part of a hobby like the sports card thing was, and only later to find out that now Pokemon is, I think it's the third. No. I think it's the largest media. What is the term? It's like it makes more money as far as the IP, the content of Pokemon than anything else, and that includes Star Wars. That includes all the. I think Hello Kitty may be next in line or something like that.
Yeah.
But Pokemon is huge, and to think like that, you talk about it on the podcast, like I talk about it, and there's a number of guys who really appreciate it. They want to hear more, but then there's other guys who they'll take the camp of making fun of it. And to Mike's credit, he'll make fun of it, but he also does appreciate there is a base, there are people that do like it, but that's not as widely talked about on the pod. So I just sometimes I'm wondering, do these guys even get that this is hugely popular? And you're just not going to hear, I don't see Pokemon guys making fun of sports card guys like sports card guys make fun of Pokemon guys. You know what I mean? I'm sorry. That's my rant. That's my 5-minute answer.
Some of them. Yeah. Thank you for coming on the show.
Exactly.
Have a good evening. No, the great curator, he actually claps back, which I like to see. He's very edgy and funny, and that's what I like. It's a very endearing. But I don't think that we need to other each other or dip other people's buckets or rain on people's parades to celebrate our own cards and our own collections. But I do see some of that, again, almost like an East Coast, West Coast rap battle thing going on. And, it's kind of unless it's done really funny, I think it has to be humorous. If it's just straight venom or vitriol, it just turns me off. I'm just not, and I don't have to. I mean, sometimes I have clap back at comment sections, but it's just not fun. It's not funny, and I'm here for the humor and the fun and the entertaining aspects. So, no, but thank you for sharing your history of it. Let me ask you, your favorite Pokemon.
I mean, I often say Charizard just because I first got into Pokemon around that same time as the card game was really popular. It was middle school or something. My parents had just gotten a divorce. My mom had moved into apartments nearby, and she got us, my brother and I think this was one of her ways of still, not trying to be the best parent, but trying to be hey, we still love you, and this is a gift to make you feel better during this sad time. So she got me and my brother the Game Boy Colors that had just recently come out.
Yeah.
And I got the Pokemon Red, and my brother got the Pokemon Blue. And we even got the cable where you could connect them together and then trade and battle and all that stuff. Dude, that was when I really got into it. And Pokemon Red was Charizard, of course. And so that was he was my guy that I took around everywhere. So it's kind of hard. But now, when Pokemon Go first came out, I had taken a break from Pokemon. I knew I kind of would watch a little content here and there about it, but I didn't really do anything Pokemon until Pokemon Go came out, and which I think was I want to say 2016, maybe something around there. And I got really into it. Took a little break for a few months. Got really back into it when I was working at Dell right before I did the podcast. Did it with a few guys there, and only recently in the last maybe month or so, I've gotten back into it, and it's a problem. It's a real problem. I'm over here. During this interview, I have pulled up the app to see if there's any Pokemon around me that I don't have, just to make sure I get it in time, because it is a weirdly addicting game, and it has brought me not only because before I started playing this again, I was already getting back into the cards and stuff. It's an addicting habit. That's a very, very long answer for what's your favorite Pokemon.
Well, good, because my next question was going to be, what's Taylor Swift's favorite Pokemon?
Oh, she is all day an Ekans. I don't know why. She's very.
She loves. It was the Kanye West influence on her, I think. So
That's
now,
absolutely what it is. Yeah.
no, I know I only have you for 3 minutes. I keep looking at the clock because I want to be very mindful of your time. So it is a hard stop in 3 minutes, right?
Dang it. Give it. We'll take it till
Five.
it's something I need to be prepared for. Till
Got it.
yeah, let's give it 7 more.
Okay. So the reason I wanted to see how much time is one, I wanted to see how long I could go with this silly thing. I am not outing you, by the way, right now, but I will out myself.
Out
You have
me. That's
talked about
fine.
on you have talked about in the podcast about how on your podcast, Cards Nonsense, powered by Spotify and The Ringer, that you have driven for Pokemon.
Oh
I
God, yes.
I have driven for Pokemon no
Oh,
more
you
than
play Pokemon Go too. That's
yeah.
okay.
We'll
Yep.
become friends offline with that.
Yes, you got to send me a friend request.
We when I say we, I in the middle of the night, I will drive 5 miles. No, what's the cutoff? I think it's like 20 miles an hour. So people who bike can still do it, but if you're driving, you can't go over 20 miles an hour.
Yep.
So I'm just slowly going through the neighborhood. And one night, my car completely shut down. The engine just kind of, I don't know what happened, but I know a friend. Oh, it was like some sort of electric thing. So he helped me get a jump. I tried calling like AAA and they said they were going to be like, 2 hours. And I'm like, I had a friend in the neighborhood. So he jumped me and in the good way, not in the bad way. He jumped me and he was like, so what are you doing out here? And, over near my house. And I was like, I'm doing Pokemon. And so every single text exchange I have with him since then is, hey, are you gonna go out for Pokemon? Are you gonna go out for Pokemon tonight?
Yeah. Listen,
It's
man, I'm not going to be
yeah,
in the neighborhood. I can't come and jump you in case your car breaks down. So just let me know. Yeah.
yeah, no, exactly. But no, that's my little Pokemon Go story. But that brings me to a really, a good easy transition, which I'm working on. Transitions is the collecting and the hobby with you and your daughter, because you mentioned that you had a daughter. So
Yeah.
you are a family man. You are you. I've seen just all the content and like where you are very you're a family man. You really are. And
Absolutely.
so
Yeah.
can you tell me just maybe a little bit about how the hobby influences you as a parent and like all the things that you do with her?
Yeah. Well, I mean, first off, like on a more secular sense, like the hobby is my job. It's how I provide for my family. Like
Mm,
it is a big deal that I get to do this not only because it's a lot of fun, but it also makes sure that my kid has clothes and she can do the things she needs to. My wife can get groceries, all that kind of stuff. So,
hmm
you know, there's also like a big distinction that I don't think I've ever really talked about is, on the podcast, Mike is known as the guy who has done really well and been really successful and he buys properties now because of the hobby and all this stuff.
mm,
That's not my story. Like I make a decent living doing
hmm
this and like doing this as a living, but I don't have the money to go invest in properties and stuff like that. Like it's not like I'm broke by any means, but it is definitely a different story where sometimes they'll be like, Jesse and I don't need the money. I'm just like, dude, shut up, speak for yourself. Like yeah, I'll take a little extra money, if I can put some in savings or something. So,
hmm
so that being said, that's where, as far as how it affects my family. But on the more like, sentimental enjoyment side is it's really fun to see her react the way I did, like collecting like because I did there was a time people think this is funny. There was a time where I really appreciated pulling like a Scottie Pippen or like a Carl Malone or something out of a pack of cards as a young kid,
mm
and to see the enjoyment she gets. She doesn't care about the sports at all. I think there may be a day, but at this point, she loves pulling Pokemon packs and like she's probably knows more about the actual card game than I do at this point. And she gets really into the XP and what can this one do and all this. And I just like, I don't know. It's not a really expensive thing to do either. Like to be able to go buy a pack for $5 or less. And we start going through them and she's like, oh, what is this one? Oh, my buddy has this one over there. I want to go trade with him. And I don't know. It's really instilled in me like the times where like I get a little hate for being anything but a sports card lover. Those are the times when I remember like, oh, there's a much larger community, but more importantly, there's my daughter who loves this as well. So I have no issues with backing that play, continuing to be the nonsense of sports cards nonsense and promoting Pokemon.
That's awesome. Thank you for that very endearing answer. So I'm going to get a little bit silly here. I've had time to think about it since you said it, but so I'll go first, and then I want you to go and give me your take. One is, I think that Scottie Pippen, I'm thinking, okay, who's his Pokemon analog? I'm going to go with Executor because he was so long. That's probably a really bad answer. Pippen, Pokemon, Jesse, go.
Oh my God, I was not prepared for this.
I know, I'm sorry.
Oh man, I got one for Rodman, but now I'm trying to think.
Ooh,
okay, so
give me the Rodman one.
Hitmonchamp.
Oh yeah, that's a great one.
I mean, I just feel like that just makes a lot of sense to me.
That might have been the one I was thinking about, that one for Karl Malone, but I actually came up with Machamp for Karl Malone.
Okay,
because of the muscles, because Karl Malone was all muscles.
Absolutely. So, I honestly, you know what I think of when I think, because I think of, okay, so in my opinion, all right, so don't at me, people.
Don't at me.
The Charizard is like the GOAT, so I think of Michael Jordan GOAT.
Right, absolutely.
I kind of view it as like a Charmeleon type of thing for Pippen. You know, like it's like, you know, a little step down, but like he was a big player. We wouldn't have Charmander or Charizard without Charmeleon. I don't know. That's where I'm going with it.
Okay, so before we get to Karl Malone, I got to ask you then, who's the Charmander of that evolution?
Oh, that's Luke Longley all day long, all day long. Luke,
don't add him, Luke. He's an Australian. I think I've seen some people take pictures of him. And I have his autograph card, but do not add him the Longley family. All right, Karl Malone. I said Machamp could be a better one. Someone with big muscles, maybe loves motorcycles. I don't know.
Here's the thing. Karl Malone is going to be a little bit different for me because I've heard he's not maybe the greatest guy
I've heard
in some cases. So I'm going to say like a Gengar, like because he is still big. He's intense, but also I've always viewed Gengar as like kind of like a mean guy. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely accurate. Gengar. Okay. By the way, a little plug for my little Pokemon Go account. Yep. Gengar, we have a 4-star? Yeah, 100% 4-star shiny shadow. Like, we didn't even have to like purify it. Oh my God, what is it called? Like, it's everything. It's every perfect. It's every good thing you could have. And we just like got him in from an egg, I think. But again, all the sports people have tuned out, but it's all right.
I do feel bad for them, but yeah, it's a fun game though, guys. If you're looking for something to get into, I only have one perfect. I've got one perfect.
No,
but it's not a shiny. Like you have me beat on that. It's a Gyarados.
Yeah, Gyarados is great. Yeah, no, there's no way you have one 4-star. You know how you can search for the perfects, right? You just
I know, but first off, I don't have any 4-star. I thought 3-star was the max it went up to.
No, we got to talk offline.
Yeah, we got to talk offline because I mean, look at this. You can't because
I can't see
the screen blur.
Don't delete. Yeah, don't delete any Pokemon. I'm going to help you out. We're not level 60 players. I forget what the cap is now, but we got up there really high.
There are people who've gotten to 60. What level are you?
No, see, now I got to pull up. See, this is going to take too long. You got to go in like a minute here.
I know. Oh God, I got to go already.
Yeah. Pokemon Go. See, it's gonna play the music and all that.
Okay. That's fine.
No, but so we have 2 accounts, so you can hear it in the background.
Copyright.
Let's exit.
Yeah, just talk over it. Talk over it.
Okay, 40. So the cap isn't 60; it's 50. But one account. I have 2 boys. I have 2 accounts. Okay. One is at level 42. The other one's at 41.
Dang, I should have never stopped playing for a few years.
Yeah. We did the pay version, the freemium, the pay version of the freemium. And then once I got into cards, I told them they had no more money for the paid stuff. So that's awesome parenting by me.
I'm a 34, so I got a lot of work to do. So.
I will help you as much as I can.
Thank you.
I have
They probably don't let 34s have 4-star. That's why I don't know about it.
No, I think we'll definitely talk. Jesse, the level 34 sports boy, Rhodes, Gibson, with a family man and a TCG uh, lover and sports card nonsense host, the better of the two duo. You have been an excellent guest. Thank you so much for bringing so much banter and nonsense to the Car Diary.
Oh
Any last
man.
words?
Have me back. I've got so much more to nonsense to talk about anytime.
Awesome. Well, good luck with the next thing you got to do, and hope you have a wonderful day, listeners. I don't have good outros. I'll just say, can you say Auf Wiedersehen to our German listener though?
Auf Wiedersehen.
Oh ja, danke.
Yes, das Boot, indeed.
Das ist gut. Das Boot. All right. You have a wonderful day. Thanks, Jesse.
See you, man. Thanks
All
again.
right. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the 25th episode of the Card Diary by Hobbyist Thompson. You can find me on Instagram at Danny_cards. Please DM me or comment on the clip to reels that I make for the show if you like it. Or at the very least, I would greatly appreciate it if you leave a rating and review so that others can find out about this podcast. We are nearing 1,000 plays across all episodes. And the next two episodes, barring any last second national discussion, should be my chat with the one and only Courtney Reckless from Reckless Cards. And to sign off, to my listeners in Estonia, Huvasti.